The library was Cheese's sanctuary. It was a world of hushed whispers, the soft rustle of turning pages, and the faint, comforting scent of old paper and lemon-scented polish. Here, amidst the towering shelves of knowledge, the chaos of her life, the pressure of final-year exams, the constant, low-grade anxiety about the future, the noise of a shared apartment with 3 other girls, all of it faded into a manageable hum. Here, she was not just a scholarship student trying to keep her head above water. She was just a girl with a book. Her phone, a perpetually cracked device held together by optimism and a clear case, buzzed insistently on the wooden desk, shattering her concentration. It was her best friend, Amara. Amara, don't forget, the notes for Professor Adams' class. My grade depends on this. Sending you a pic now. Cheesa sighed, a small, fond smile touching her lips. Amara was brilliant but hopelessly disorganized. Cheesa, on the other hand, ran her life with the precision of a military operation, a necessity born from having no safety net. She tapped her phone awake. True to her word, Amara had sent a blurry photo of her own, nearly illegible scrawl. Opening her notes app, Cheesa began typing, her fingers flying across the screen. She was crafting a beautifully organized digital version of the notes, her mind already categorizing key themes and potential exam questions. As she typed the final sentence, her thumb, slick with nervous sweat from the warm library, slipped. Instead of hitting save, it hit send. Instead of sending it to Amara's contact, it sent to a number saved from a group project 2 semesters ago, a number belonging to Cairo Adebio. She didn't realize it. She slid the phone into her backpack, gathered her books, and left the library, her mind already on her evening shift at the campus coffee shop. Cairo Adebio was bored. The boardroom-style lecture hall felt stifling, the droning voice of the guest speaker on corporate ethics a lullaby of corporate jargon. He scrolled idly through his phone under the desk, dismissing notifications from social media. Another photo of him at a club, tagged by a friend, another dozen comments about his clothes, his life, his famous family. His father, Ade Adebio, was a household name, a titan of industry whose shadow Cairo had lived in his entire life. At this university, he wasn't just Cairo, he was Adebio's son. It came with a certain notoriety. Girls slipped him their numbers on napkins. Guys wanted to be seen with him. He was used to the attention, the curated messages, the performative interest. It was all part of the script. His phone vibrated with a new message from an unknown number. He almost deleted it. Another fan, another shot in the dark, but something made him open it. It wasn't a flirty message. It wasn't a request. It was notes. Meticulous, brilliantly summarized notes on the very lecture he was half listening to. The message ended not with a phone number or a heart emoji, but with a line that struck him as oddly profound amidst the academic bullet points. I think the real conflict isn't between ethics and profit, but between the person you're expected to be and the person you actually want to become. He stared at the screen. Who was this? It was insightful, raw, and completely devoid of the agenda he was so accustomed to. A slow smile spread across his face. He typed a reply. The Brood Awakening coffee shop was a symphony of controlled chaos. The guttural roar of the espresso machine, the clinking of ceramic, the steady stream of students seeking caffeine-fueled salvation. Cheesa moved through it all with practiced ease, a whirlwind of taking orders, steaming milk and flashing quick, genuine smiles. Her phone buzzed in her apron pocket, probably Amara thanking her for the notes. She pulled it out during a lull, wiping her hands on a cloth. The message was not from Amara. Unknown number, these are the best notes I've ever received. And that last line, who are you? Cheese's blood ran cold. She frantically scrolled up. There it was, her perfectly typed notes sent to the wrong number, Cairo Adebio's number. Her stomach plummeted. Cairo Adebio. The Cairo Adebio. The one whose face was constantly on campus gossip blogs, the heir to an empire, the boy who moved in a world so far removed from her own, it might as well have been on a different planet. Panic set in. She typed a hurried, flustered reply. Chiza, oh my God, I am so sorry, that was a complete accident. It was meant for my friend. Please disregard. She held her breath, waiting for the inevitable, either radio silence or a curt, dismissive reply from someone who had no time for a clumsy scholarship student. Her phone buzzed again, almost immediately. Cairo, an accident, that's a shame. I was hoping I'd finally found someone in this place who can think for themselves. Don't worry, your secret is safe. And thank you. You just saved my grade in this class. Chiza stared at the message, her panic slowly being replaced by a flicker of something else, intrigue. This wasn't the arrogant, dismissive reply she had expected. It was human. You did what? Amara shrieked, loud enough to turn heads in their small dorm room later that evening. SHHH, Chiza hissed, pulling her friend down onto the bed. I know it was stupid, my thumb slipped. Amara's eyes were wide with a mixture of horror and excitement. Chiza, you accidentally texted Cairo Adebio. The Cairo Adebio. Do you know how many girls would literally pay for his number? And you sent him lecture notes. I know how it sounds. Okay, forget how it sounds. What did he say? Chiza showed her the message thread. Amara read it, her expression shifting from dramatic to thoughtfully serious. Huh. What does huh mean? It means this isn't the response of the playboy the blogs make him out to be. This is nice. And a little bit sad. She handed the phone back. He's talking to you, Chiza, the real you, the one in those notes, not the Adebio's son version everyone else sees. Chiza hugged a pillow to her chest, a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. It doesn't matter. It was an accident. It's over. But it wasn't over. Later that night, as she was trying to study, another message came through. Cairo can't stop thinking about that line, about the person you want to become. Who do you want to become, accidental pen pal? And against her better judgment, against every instinct that told her to run from this complication, she found herself typing a reply. They talked for hours, the conversation flowing from philosophy to favorite books to their most embarrassing childhood memories. The digital barrier made it easy to be honest. She wasn't scholarship student Chiza, and he wasn't Adebio's son. They were just two minds connecting in the dark. It became a routine, late-night texts, deep conversations hidden in the mundane daylight of campus life. A week later, he asked a question that sent her heart into a frantic rhythm. Cairo, the spring festival is this Friday. Will you go with me? She didn't know it then, but her thumb slip had set in motion a chain of events that would challenge everything she knew about love, life, and the walls we build around our own hearts. She was about to meet the boy from the texts, and she had no idea that the real person could be so much more, and so much more dangerous, than the one she'd been getting to know. The Spring Festival was a kaleidoscope of color and sound, a university tradition that transformed the main quad into a vibrant, pulsing heart of music, laughter, and the smell of sizzling street food. For most, it was a night of carefree fun. For Chiza, standing at the edge of the swirling crowd, it felt like stepping onto a stage without knowing her lines. She spent 2 hours agonizing over what to wear, finally settling on a simple, dark blue dress she'd found at a thrift store and repaired herself. It felt like a suit of armor, simple, unassuming her. Now, clutching the strap of her canvas bag, she felt painfully ordinary amidst a sea of designer labels and deliberate glamour. This was a mistake, she thought, her heart hammering a frantic rhythm against her ribs. He's not going to come, or he'll take one look at me and realize this was all a joke. Then she saw him. He wasn't surrounded by an entourage. He wasn't posing for pictures. He was just walking. His eyes scanned the crowd, not with the bored arrogance she'd seen in paparazzi photos, but with a focused intensity. When his gaze landed on her, it stopped. For a breathtaking second, the noise of the festival faded into a dull roar. He smiled, a slow, genuine smile that reached his eyes, crinkling the corners in a way his polished public photos never did. "You came," he said, stopping before her. He was taller in person, his presence both intimidating and strangely calming. "I said I would," Chiza replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "Most people say a lot of things to me, fewer actually do them." He gestured towards the heart of the festival. "Shall we?" Their first date was not a date in the traditional sense. There was no expensive restaurant, no red carpet. They wandered through the festival stalls, and Cairo, to her astonishment, was normal. He laughed genuinely at a terrible magic trick performed by a drama student. He lost a carnival game trying to win her a stuffed animal. He bought 2 sticks of suya from a vendor and insisted on paying, not with a flashy black card, but with crumpled cash from his pocket. They found a relatively quiet bench under a sprawling oak tree, away from the main throng. The conversation, which had flowed so easily through text, was initially halting in person, laden with the weight of reality. "It's different," Chiza said finally, staring at the fairy lights strung through the branches above them. "Talking to you here." "Is it a bad different?" he asked, his voice careful. "No, just real. On the phone you were just a voice in my head. Here you're you, Cairo Adebio." He was quiet for a moment. "And which version do you prefer?" She dared to look at him then. The festival lights cast shifting patterns of gold and shadow across his face. "I don't know the you here yet, but the one in my head, I liked him quite a lot." That broke the tension. His smile returned, softer this time. "Good, because I like the you in my head too. The one who thinks ethics professors are secretly frustrated poets and who can summarize a 500-page textbook in 3 paragraphs." They started meeting in secret. Their world became a series of stolen moments, a hidden map of places where Cairo Adebio could just be Cairo. Their sanctuary was a forgotten botanical garden on the far edge of campus, overgrown and wild, known only to a few biology students. They called it their secret garden. There, lying on a worn-out blanket, they shared pieces of themselves. He told her about the crushing weight of expectation, the business dinners where he was paraded like a prized stallion, the loneliness of a life where everyone wanted something from him. He confessed he was studying business not out of passion, but out of duty, and that he secretly dreamed of being an architect. She in turn shared her fears. The constant pressure of her scholarship, the fear of failure that was a cold knot in her stomach every single day, the way she calculated the cost of every meal, every textbook. She told him about her mother, a nurse who worked double shifts to make ends meet, and the fierce, burning desire she had to make her proud. In the secret garden, they were just Cairo and Chiza. The world with all its labels and divisions didn't exist. But the outside world was always waiting. One afternoon, as they were leaving a small, independent cinema, a flash went off. A paparazzo lurking in the shadows had found them. Cairo's body immediately went rigid. He shoved Chiza gently behind him, his face transforming from the soft, open boy she knew into a mask of cold, controlled anger. "Not here, not her," he growled at the photographer, his voice low and dangerous. The picture was online within the hour. "Adebio Heir's new mystery girl," the headline screamed. The comments were a torrent of speculation, cruelty, and envy. "Who is she? She's so plain. Gold digger alert." Amara showed her the article, her face grim. "I told you, Chiza, this is what comes with him." The second intrusion was more personal. A sleek, black luxury car pulled up beside her as she walked back from the library. The window slid down to reveal a stunningly beautiful woman with sharp, calculating eyes. Lara, Cairo's ex-girlfriend, a socialite from a family as powerful as his own. "I'd have a word," Lara said, her voice like chilled champagne. She didn't even ask Chiza's name. "You're a cute distraction, I'm sure, but understand your place. Boys like Cairo play with toys like you. They don't keep them. When he's done, he'll come back to his own kind. Save yourself the embarrassment." Chiza stood there, frozen, as the car purred away. The words were like shards of ice in her veins. That night when Cairo texted her, she didn't reply. He found her in the secret garden the next day. She was sitting on their blanket, her arms wrapped around her knees. "Lara found you," he said, his voice heavy. "It wasn't a question. She made it very clear what I am to people like you," Chiza whispered, not looking at him. "A toy, a distraction." Cairo knelt in front of her, forcing her to meet his gaze. His eyes were blazing with a ferocity she'd never seen. "Look at me, Chiza. You are the only real thing that has happened to me in years. You are not a distraction. You are the main event. Everyone else, Lara, the photographers, the entire damn world, they are the noise." He took her hands. "I know this is hard. I know my world is ugly and intrusive. But what we have here," he gestured to the garden around them, "this is real. Don't let them take this from us." Tears welled in her eyes. She wanted to believe him. She wanted the secret garden to be enough. "Okay," she whispered. He pulled her into a hug, and for a moment, wrapped in his arms, the outside world faded again. But the seed of doubt, planted by Lara's venomous words, had taken root. She had agreed to keep their secret, to fight for them. But she couldn't shake the chilling fear that their hidden world was built on a foundation that was already beginning to crack. The crack became a chasm on a Tuesday. Chiza was in the university library, the familiar scent of old books and dust offering a false sense of security. She was hunched over an economics textbook, the words blurring into a gray mess on the page. Her phone, set to silent, lit up with a call from an unknown number. She ignored it, a habit born from the recent barrage of messages from gossip blogs and well-wishers. A moment later it buzzed again, and again. A cold dread, different from exam anxiety, began to coil in her stomach. On the fourth call she snatched it up and whispered, "Hello." "Miss Nwasu," a woman's voice, crisp and devoid of warmth, like the click of polished heels on marble. "This is Evelyn Walsh, personal assistant to Mr. Adebio. He requests your presence at the Adebio Holdings headquarters. A car will be waiting for you at the university gates in 20 minutes. The line went dead before Chiza could form a word. Request. The word echoed in her mind, laced with the quiet power of a command. Her hands trembled as she shoved her books into her bag. This was it. The outside world wasn't just knocking, it was kicking the door down. The car was a silent, black sedan, so sleek it seemed to absorb the sunlight. The driver, a man in an immaculate suit, didn't speak, merely holding the door open for her. The ride through Lagos was a silent, surreal procession. They moved from the vibrant, chaotic streets surrounding the university into the sanitized, towering world of the business district, where the Adebio Holdings building pierced the sky like a glass and steel monument to power. Inside, the air was cold and smelled of expensive perfume and floor polish. Evelyn Walsh met her in the lobby, a woman with a severe bun and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She led Chiza into a private elevator that ascended in a silent, stomach-lurching rush. The office at the top was less a room and more a statement. A wall of glass offered a dizzying, god-like view of the city. In the center, behind a desk the size of a small boat, sat Adebio. He was an older, harder version of Cairo, his presence filling the space, sucking the air from it. He did not stand. "Miss Nwasu," he said, his voice a low rumble. He gestured to the minimalist chair opposite him. "Please." She sat, feeling like a child in a principal's office, her thrift store dress suddenly feeling cheap and threadbare. "I am a direct man," he began, steepling his fingers. "I have built an empire from nothing. I understand drive, I understand ambition." His eyes, the same shade of brown as Cairo's but infinitely colder, pinned her to the seat. "What I do not understand is distraction. My son has a path, a destiny. It involves merging our family's interests with the Duran family. It involves Lara." Chiza's heart felt like a trapped bird. She said nothing. "This friendship," he continued, the word dripping with disdain, is a complication. It is a spark near a fuel depot. It threatens everything I have built for him, for our family. I am here to extinguish it." He slid a single, cream-colored envelope across the vast expanse of the desk. "Inside, you will find a full scholarship to any university in Europe or America. Tuition, living expenses, everything. A clean start. A brilliant future unencumbered." Chiza stared at the envelope. It represented everything she had ever worked for, everything her mother had sacrificed for. It was a dream, handed to her on a platter. "All I require," Adebio said, his voice dropping to a deadly quiet, "is your discretion. You will end this dalliance. You will tell Cairo it is your decision. You will disappear." Tears of shame and fury pricked at her eyes. He wasn't just asking her to leave. He was asking her to break Cairo's heart and take the blame for it, to make herself the villain. "And if I refuse," she whispered, her voice trembling. Adebio's smile was thin and cruel. "Then I cannot be responsible for the consequences. That scholarship you currently hold, it can be reevaluated. Your mother's job at the hospital. Unfortunately, large corporations make donations and they have influence. Your family's small apartment in Surulere, the landlord is an old business associate. Do you understand, Miss Nwasu? I am not threatening you. I am explaining reality." The gilded cage. He was offering her freedom, but only if she agreed to lock herself away from the one person who made her feel free. The weight of it was crushing. She thought of her mother's tired eyes, of the relentless struggle, of the chance to lift that burden forever. With a hand that shook, she reached out and took the envelope. That night she met Cairo in their secret garden. The moon was full, casting a silver pallor over their sanctuary. He knew immediately that something was wrong. "Chiza, what is it?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. She couldn't look at him. She held out the envelope. "I can't do this anymore, Cairo." He took it, confusion etching his features. He pulled out the documents, his eyes scanning the offer. When he looked up, they were filled with a hurt so profound it stole her breath. "What is this? Did he threaten you? My father did this, didn't he?" "It doesn't matter," she said, the lie tasting like ash in her mouth. She had to make him believe it. She had to protect him and her family. This thing between us, it was a fantasy, Cairo. A beautiful, stupid fantasy, but I live in the real world. And in the real world I have to think about my future, my family's future. This," she pointed to the envelope in his hand, "is my future. And you are not in it." The words hung in the air, killing the magic of the garden. The silence that followed was the most devastating sound she had ever heard. He stared at her, his face a mask of betrayal and disbelief. The boy from the texts, the one who had been so open and vulnerable with her, vanished. In his place was the heir, cold and closed off. "I see," he said, his voice flat. He dropped the envelope onto the ground as if it were contaminated. "I thought you were different. I thought what we had was real." "It was," she whispered, a tear finally escaping. "That's why it has to end." He turned and walked away without another word, disappearing into the shadows of the garden, leaving her alone with the ruins of their secret world and the expensive price of her family's security. The following weeks were a blur of numbness. She accepted the scholarship. She gave notice at the coffee shop. She packed her life into 2 suitcases. The news, when it broke, was a fresh wave of pain. Adebio heir and mystery girl split. Sources say she left for an international scholarship. The narrative was perfect. The ambitious scholarship student who got what she wanted and moved on. The night before her flight to London, she stood alone at the airport, the envelope that had cost her everything clutched in her hand. She had saved her family, secured her future, and shattered her own heart in the process. She had learned a brutal lesson, that in the world of the Adebios, love was a liability, and she had been too poor to afford it. 2 years passed. They passed in a blur of London grey and the relentless pursuit of excellence. Chiza had built a new life, just as Adebio had promised. She was a star student at the London School of Economics, her name on the dean's list, her future a bright, predictable path toward a high-powered career. She had everything the scholarship offered, and the hollow ache in her chest had become a familiar, manageable companion. She was in London for a prestigious international business summit, representing her university. It was held in a stunning, modern convention center, a masterpiece of glass and light. The keynote speaker was the main attraction, a young, visionary architect who had shaken the establishment by blending sustainable design with profound cultural storytelling. His name was on every screen, in every program. Cairo Adebio. Her program fluttered from her numb fingers. He wasn't a businessman, he was an architect. He had done it. He had broken free. From the back of the vast, darkened auditorium, she watched him take the stage. He was older, his features sharper, his presence more grounded, more his own. He spoke not about profit margins, but about soul. He presented his projects, showing how he used local materials, how his designs told stories of communities. The final project he showcased made her breath catch. It was a design for a community library. And this project, he said, his voice deeper and more confident echoing through the hall, is deeply personal. It's called the Secret Garden Library. It's inspired by a place and a person who taught me that the most important structures we build aren't made of steel and glass, but of truth and connection. He looked up from his notes, his gaze sweeping the audience. For a long time, I lived in a gilded cage, following a blueprint drawn by someone else. It took someone incredibly brave, someone who saw the real me when no one else could, to hand me the keys. She taught me that the person you're expected to be and the person you want to become don't have to be at war. You can build a new design altogether. His eyes found hers in the darkness. It was impossible in a crowd of thousands, but he found her. He stopped speaking, and the silence was profound. Sometimes, he said, his voice softening, meant only for her across the distance. You have to tear down the old foundations to build something real. And sometimes, you have to be willing to wait for the right person to build it with. The applause was thunderous. Chiza couldn't move. She was frozen, the past 2 years collapsing into a single, heart-stopping moment. He found her after the speech, by the coffee station, a pathetic echo of their first meeting. Chiza. She turned. Up close she could see the faint lines of stress and maturity, but also a new peace in his eyes. Cairo, your speech, it was incredible. You did it. I had a good teacher, he said softly. She just didn't know she was teaching me at the time. The words tumbled out. He told her everything. After she left, the fight with his father had been nuclear. He had walked away from the inheritance, from the company, from everything. He'd used a small, secret trust fund from his grandmother to put himself through architecture school. The Secret Garden Library was his first major independent project, and he had just won a prestigious international prize for it. My father, Cairo shook his head, a wry smile on his lips. He disowned me, officially, and it was the best gift he ever gave me. Your father, Chiza said, her voice thick with emotion. He didn't just offer me the scholarship, Cairo. He threatened me. My scholarship, my mother's job, our home. He said he'd take everything if I didn't leave and make you believe it was my choice. Cairo's face tightened with a flash of old anger, but it quickly melted into profound understanding. I know. You know. I figured it out about a year ago. I hired a private investigator. I needed to know the truth. When I found out, I was going to come find you then, but I stopped myself. I had to become the man worthy of that kind of sacrifice first. I had to build something I could truly offer you, not my father's empire, my own. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out not a ring but a small, rolled-up set of architectural schematics. He unrolled them on a nearby table. It was a beautiful, detailed drawing of a house, not a mansion, a home. Warm, modern, filled with light, with a garden that looked suspiciously like their old sanctuary. This is what I want to build, he said, his voice raw with emotion. This is the life I want to design, and I don't want to design it with anyone but you. I don't care about the past. I don't care about the 2 years we lost. I only care about the future." Tears streamed freely down Cheese's face now, tears of relief, of joy, of a pain finally being healed. "The scholarship, my career here," she stammered, "can be transferred, or we can do long distance, or you can tell me to go to hell, but I had to ask. I had to find you and build something true." She looked from the blueprints, the tangible evidence of his love and his freedom, to his face, which was once again the open, hopeful face of the boy from the secret garden. She didn't say yes with words. She reached out and took his hand, lacing her fingers through his. It was an answer. It was a promise. 6 months later, at the groundbreaking ceremony for the secret garden library in a small community in Lagos, Cairo didn't just cut a ribbon. In front of his proud, albeit reluctantly respectful father, her beaming mother, and all their friends, he got down on one knee. "Chiza," he said, his voice clear and strong under the African sun, "you were the first person who ever saw the real design of my heart. Will you build a life with me?" And this time with no secrets, no threats, and a future they had designed together. Her yes was the easiest word she had ever spoken.